What new drugs are in development for celiac disease?
So at the moment, the only thing that we have to manage someone with celiac disease is a gluten-free diet, as a strict gluten-free diet from the time of diagnosis for the rest of that person's life. And that's the only diet, the only treatment that we have at the moment. For some people, for most people, that is perfect and things get recovered and things work normally thereafter in terms of the small bowel. But some people inadvertently get exposed to gluten and or don't adhere to the gluten-free diet. So it doesn't always for everybody lead to the outcomes that we want. And there's a whole lot of other treatments that are being evaluated and looked at. And some of those break down those toxic parts of the cereals in the small bowel so that they're no longer toxic. So they break them down into smaller chunks so that then they don't trigger the immune response. There's one that works a bit like a sponge in terms of holding on to those toxic parts and then taking it further down the gut so it can't trigger changes. There's one drug that helps the lining cells of the gut get closer together so the toxic parts can't get through. And then there's a series of drugs that work on some of the immune responses and some of the things that happen in the surface of the gut to try and halt that. There was a vaccine that was being developed, but unfortunately although the initial results looked promising, the subsequent results weren't, so that program's been halted. But I believe in New Zealand there's currently 3 or 4 studies that are ongoing. They're looking at adults at the moment, so not kids like you, Tom, but and they're evaluating some of those different treatments. It's not clear at the moment whether that will mean that someone with celiac disease doesn't have to have a gluten-free diet. It might mean that one of those treatments mean that you could go out to a restaurant and not worry so much if the chef doesn't know what gluten-free means, and have that treatment at that time. And probably the ones that are closest to being ready, or ready for use, so to speak, are the medicines that break down those peptides in the surface of it, within the gut, so that they don't trigger the responses. But probably in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be 1 or more different treatments that will be available. So by the time you're grown up, there will very likely be other treatments. But as I said, at the moment, we don't know exactly whether that means that you can have a gluten-containing diet or whether these are additional treatments in addition to a gluten-free diet. So what their role will be and how we use them isn't clear yet.